Mary Lou's Cook here. Welcome on into another episode of FCS All-In, your one-stop shop for all things FCS, where you'll hear from the conferences around the FCS, as well as from national correspondent Sam Herder of Hero Sports and Craig Haley of Stats Perform. With Week 0 officially in the rearview mirror, let's go all in.
Football is back in the WAC. I'm Eric Danner with the WAC report for FCS All-In. Our featured matchup of the week is a conference game right off the bat as Stephen F. Austin hosts Tarleton. The Lumberjacks are coming off a 6-4 record while playing in the fall last season. SFA was also 4-0 at Homer Bryce Stadium. Stephen F. Austin is picked to finish second in the WAC this year.
The purple team will come out on top, playing Tarleton Texans. So that's a team we've got a lot of history with as a staff. Coach Witten, who's a former SFA Lumberjack, played quarterback back in the day there at SFA. We've had some good battles throughout our careers and years gone by. Tarleton
is now in their second season in Division I. The Texans went 5-3 in the spring. That included a victory over FBS opponent New Mexico State. Tarleton is picked third in the WAC preseason coaches poll.
We have a good football team, and we certainly can play better than we did in the spring. And so this will be the toughest schedule that our university has ever seen.
The Texans and Lumberjacks kick things off at 6 p.m. Central Time on Saturday on ESPN+. We have two other WAC schools in action on Saturday night. Let's start with Abilene Christian making the trip to Dallas to take on former WAC member SMU. ACU is one of only 15 FCS schools to play a fall schedule last season. The Wildcats are looking to pick up their first ever win against an FBS opponent. SMU was 7-3 last year. The Mustangs compete in the American Athletic Conference and were picked third in their media preseason poll. ACU and SMU is a 6 p.m. Central Time start on ESPN+. Our last game of the week features Dixie State hosting Sacramento State. The Trailblazers are entering their second season in Division I. For DSU, this will be their third home game as a D1 school. Sac State is picked fifth in the Big Sky preseason coaches and media polls. That game starts at 7 p.m. Mountain Time and is also on ESPN+. For FCS All-In, I'm Eric Danner.
After kicking off the 2021 season with a pair of conference games on Thursday night, 8 CAA football teams will face non-league foes for their openers on Saturday. Highlighting the slate is UAlbany facing perennial FCS power North Dakota State. Great Danes head coach Greg Gattuso is looking forward to the challenge of taking his team to the Fargo Dome.
It's always an advantage for a team to play at home, especially when they have a crazy, wild fan base. And I've been in that environment many, many times in my career at all different levels. And I think we understand what it's going to take to play.
Bragging rights in the Charm City are on the line as Towson takes on Morgan State in the Battle of Baltimore. Tigers head coach Rob Ambrose talks about why the game is so important.
Two local Division I teams that are stone's throw away from each other. You got to play. You got to play. There's bragging rights. It's great for the communities. It's great for the schools. It's like you have to play.
Villanova makes a short trip to Lehigh for their opener. Wildcats head coach Mark Ferrante has the luxury of a deep group of running backs led by All-CAA standout Justin Covington to power his offense.
So the bottom line is this. There's not enough balls on the field and not enough carries in a game to keep them all happy, but they're all great team guys, and I know they pull for each other, root for each other, and they're just excited to get back on the field as well.
James Madison, which is remarkable 36-1 at home over the past 5 seasons, entertains Moorhead State on Saturday night. Duke's head coach Kurt Cignetti is looking forward to being back in front of a full house at Bridgeforth Stadium.
That'll be awesome again. It's a great advantage for us. We have a stadium that's second to none at this level. We're the best fan base in America at this level, and so it's definitely worth a few more points. There's no doubt about it.
Elon and Wofford get together for the first time since meeting in the first round of the FCS playoffs in 2018. Phoenix coach Tony Tristiani thinks the matchup will pay dividends for his team down the road.
When we have success and we make the playoffs down here, we're going to see option teams. If you make the playoffs and you're in North Carolina, you're going to be facing either Kennesaw State or the Citadel or Wofford, or Furman, teams that have some type of option flavor to their offense.
Rhode Island welcomes in-state foe Bryant to Meade Stadium on Saturday night. Rams head coach Jim Fleming thinks the series is great for both programs.
And it certainly makes sense, when you can sit there and play two in-state rivals and be able to establish, a state championship at the college level, I think is very cool. So we're really looking forward to it. We're supposed to have a long contract with them, but we're excited to get them here and excited to go play.
Richmond is at home against Howard on Saturday afternoon. Spiders head coach Russ Huseman heads into the season with a veteran squad led by 6-year quarterback Joe Mancuso.
You feel good that Joe has seen a lot happen in his 5 years going into his 6th year. So, yeah, we feel really good about Joe.
William & Mary closes out the day with a trip to ACC member Virginia. Tribe head coach Mike London and 6 assistants have ties to the Cavaliers program, making this matchup even more special.
The connection and the ties, just all those things, experiences that myself, but also a lot of the players and coaches on the staff. There's a lot of coaches on the staff that have that have Virginia ties. So obviously when you're a young man playing in an FCS program and the opportunity to play an FBS program, you relish the opportunity to go and compete.
Now here's a look at the full slate of CAA football games on Saturday.
Tonight, Sacramento State will open their season against Dixie State at 6 p.m. Pacific on ESPN+. Because the Hornets did not participate in the 2021 conference spring season, this will be the first time they see action since December of 2019. Senior running back Elijah Dotson shared what the experience has been like. Let's take a look.
My name is Elijah Dotson. I'm a running back, and I'm a senior. See, during the fall, it was hard. We had broken up practices. We had to break up the players. So it was like 12 players here, 12 players there. But we had to kind of separate each other. We couldn't really talk to each other until we were like off the premises because like everybody was just broken up into different groups. And you couldn't really get to know any players like the incoming freshmen. Like you couldn't really get to know them. But once the spring hit, we got in pads. We started getting familiar with each other. So most of our team chemistry came in the spring. You just had to keep your head down and keep working, You can get a little envious of seeing everybody else play when you had the choice to play, but the best decision was not to play. I just cut off the social media. I didn't want to look at anything about any other players, any other teams. It's just I wanted to play so bad I couldn't watch anybody else play. So you just had to keep your head down and keep working. That was the only thing I could do. But at the end of the day, it's a world pandemic and you got to understand the situations that we were all put in. So football is so small compared to what the world's been going through. For us to have this break, there should be no excuse as to why I shouldn't be faster, stronger, and just look completely better, like a completely different player when I touch the field. Your body doesn't go through as much. You can push yourself through training, you can rest, you can recover. And I feel like the other teams, they didn't really have that, So I feel like we'll have the advantage going into the season and we'll see where that goes. You can't be complacent. You just gotta hold your players accountable and you gotta make sure that everybody's on board. We can't have guys swaying like different ways. We just got to make sure we're one unit and we're moving together. What we did last season isn't just going to happen next season. We got to make sure that we continue this thing. We have to continue a tradition. And I'll just say that I'm proud of my work ethic, and that I just keep working regardless of the situations. And that's all I try to do day in and day out. And it's very exciting, that the time is finally ticking down to our first game. So we ain't played on it. We haven't touched the field in 2 years. So I'm just ready to play. As a team goal, you obviously want to be a champion, so that's what we're striving for.
Look forward to seeing what the Hornets do tonight. Here's a rundown of the remaining Week 1 schedule. And that's all for the Big Sky. Be sure to follow at Big Sky FB for around-the-clock coverage.
Welcome to the Missouri Valley Football Conference Extra Point. college football officially kicks off this week for 10 Valley teams, highlighting the schedule 5 matchups against FBS teams starting September 2nd. Highlighted this week by Northern Iowa's matchup with Iowa State and Missouri State's game versus Oklahoma State. Historically, the Valley has found regular success against the FBS, including a 10-year streak in which the MVFC recorded at least one FBS win. All-time, the Valley has notched 46 wins against FBS opponents. The biggest question mark coming into North Dakota State and South Dakota State season was who would be the new starting quarterback. With Mark Gronkowski out for the season, recovering from a knee injury, South Dakota State will turn to grad transfer Chris Oladokin. The 6-year senior is a dual threat and brings starting experience at USF and Samford. Coaches and teammates rave about his maturity and leadership. North Dakota State will start Virginia Tech transfer Quincy Patterson, who has 3 years of eligibility remaining. At 6'3" and 246 pounds, Patterson joined the Bison this spring and played in 13 games for the Hokies. He's known for his rocket of an arm, although Patterson has the ability to make plenty of plays with his feet. Missouri State and Southern Illinois will also feature new starting quarterbacks from the spring season. After 644 days between games, Indiana State scored a 0-week rivalry win over Eastern Illinois. The Sycamores held off the Panthers 26-21 behind safety Michael Thomas's 2 interceptions, including a key fourth-quarter pick 6. Peterson Kurlegran and Michael Hoppert combined for 156 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns. The Sycamore D turned up the pressure, finishing the game with 5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. Indiana State has a bye week before taking on Northwestern on September 11th. Here's a look at the 10 other games slated for Week 1.
Hi, I'm Denise Thompson, and I'm joined by Craig Haley of Stats Perform and Sam Herder of Hero Sports. Week 1 is here, gentlemen. We had football last week. It was definitely a great feeling. Let's just talk real briefly, like being able to see games this fall and what that felt like back in the Norm.
Yeah, it was great to see fans in the stands, to hear the bands. It felt and looked like college football compared to a weird 2020-21 type of seasons. And so, yeah, it was a great week 0. We got a few games in, and now we have a full slate of games here coming this week.
I thought it stood out that you were watching football and you were engrossed by that, and not even thinking pandemic in last year. You were thinking normalcy, and that's what we had.
Well, there were 3 FCS games on the schedule. Sam, Indiana State hosted Eastern Illinois, North Carolina Central played Alcorn State, and Southern Utah was at San Jose State. Did any of those games' outcomes shock you?
Yeah, I think the big surprise, the other 2 results weren't all that surprising, but the big surprise was NC Central beating Alcorn State by a couple of scores. I think that surprised a lot of people. It seemed like many were picking Alcorn State to win, and not just that, but Alcorn possibly winning by 2-3 scores, which goes to show that preseason hype and all that sometimes gets thrown out the window once the ball is actually kicked off. So NC Central in the MEAC as a whole really made a statement in that game.
I think definitely, one, we're just excited to be back. But because of that spring and that weird season, it definitely left the room for what seems to be the norm of the transfers and maybe a coaching change, and whether you had starters returning or not, and being able to make a seamless camp transition where maybe in another year it may have been a bit more difficult. But hoping that our FCS teams, were able to use that time, have a ton of returning starters back with their 5th year and other eligibility coming. I would say for you, Craig, we're always ready for an FCS team to top an FBS foe. So which FCS versus FBS matchup is circled on your calendar?
Well, there's been some good ones so far. And, you just mentioned coaching changes. I think of Montana State, Coach Vegan taking over. They're going to Wyoming. And I think what stands out is obviously he spent the last 7 years at Wyoming under Craig Bowl. And here he is, making his head coaching debut, in Laramie. The 2 of them were together in North Dakota State. They're going to know each other's style. But I think Montana State, being a semifinalist 2 years ago, I think they can take it deep into the game. They have to play physical, run the ball, kind of get Wyoming back on its heels. But that's the game that stands out to me.
What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I think there are two, as far as Saturday games, we could see potential FCS over FBS wins. I think Holy Cross has a good shot against UConn, and then Monmouth has a pretty good shot to beat Middle Tennessee. And I do believe that Monmouth is on track for a really good fall season. I think they have a good chance to have a good record. And if you add an FBS win to their resume, that could be the difference between Monmouth being, unseeded at 9-2 or being maybe the number 8 seed at 10-1. So those are two games I have my eye on. And then Craig mentioned one, but Montana State at Wyoming, Northern Iowa at Iowa State, Central Arkansas at Arkansas State, and Montana at Washington. I don't think those are going to be FCS wins, but more so just watching to see how well those teams that all have pretty high expectations this year, see how well those FCS teams compete and if they can keep it within, one or two possessions.
Sam, I don't know who your cable provider is or how you're going to have that much electricity because you just rattled off so many games. I'm not sure you're going to be leaving your couch or your chair or any of that come Saturday. But you know what? That's always great. And we're definitely ready to do the hashtag, FCS over FBS and all those great things that come with FCS football. So as we're saying that, there's also a ton of great FCS versus FCS matchups coming up. So which one are you kind of looking at, Sam?
Yeah, shout out ESPN Plus. There's a ton of games, FCS games, and even FCS versus FBS games that are all going to be on ESPN Plus, and so that'll be great. But as far as Saturday's games for FCS versus FCS, a lot. But the three I have circled is North Carolina A&T going to Furman. I think that could be a statement game for the Aggies now that they're not in the Celebration Bowl picture, but they're in the FCS playoff pitcher, and so I think that could be a good statement game for the Aggies. North Dakota going to Idaho State. The Bengals have always been a thorn on UND's side, and then Albany going to North Dakota State. We'll be able to see Quincy Patterson, the new starting quarterback for the Bison, for the first time, and just be able to see what this Bison team looks like compared to a team in the spring that struggled a little bit.
Just like Sam, Craig, I'm sure you have multiple computers, your TV, your phone, and any other tablets you can find to be able to watch so many games, right? It's like when you can watch them all in a little bit, you're like, no, I don't want to check the score ticker all the time. Like, I want to be able to see that big play. So for you, Craig, which games will you be looking at on Saturday?
You have to be like a U.S. Open referee, just moving your head side to side on screens. I do like that North Carolina A&T Furman game, as Sam mentioned. I mean, I was surprised to learn this week that it's a first-time matchup. I mean, that's going to be excellent. Davidson, VMI, those were two first-time qualifiers in the spring playoffs, and here they are starting the season against each other. I think that, the Albany, firepower is going to be fun against North Dakota State. But there's so many. I mean, even the regional ones, like a Cal Poly San Diego, Morgan State, Towson. I mean, I love that they play each other within the city of Baltimore. So there's just it's countless this week. I mean, 84 games, and no matter which way, you're fascinated by the matchups.
I kind of touched on it before, but Craig, are there any transfers that you've had on your radar that you're waiting to see come out and perform?
Well, usually with transfers, we think quarterbacks, and obviously the really high-profile ones this offseason are in the Missouri Valley Conference. I mean, Sam mentioned Quincy Patterson, North Dakota State, trying to get them back to a championship level. Chris Doken, played at Sanford, now at South Dakota State, one of the other power programs in the nation. I mean, they stand out for sure. If you look beyond quarterbacks, I mean, Casey Keeler just loves Tim Hart at Sam Houston, the linebacker out of Memphis. So there's so many. I'm looking forward to watching them all.
Something in the FCS that we like are the stories, right? So when I toss it over to you, Sam, my question is, you've been able to cover the FCS, obviously not just preseason, but, yearly. Has there been an interesting fact from a head coach that you think is share-worthy for the audience?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has been.
Sam, PG.
Yeah, a lot of stuff has been off the record, but that's obviously off the record for a reason. But one thing that I thought was interesting at the Big Sky Media Days was, I asked Coach Houck at Montana, did you watch the playoff games during the spring? He goes, oh yeah, we did we watched, and we did more than that. We watched all of the semifinal teams and obviously the title game too. And we scouted those teams. We had scouting reports. We broke down the film on those teams. And I think that tells you the level of expectations that Montana has this year, where they're breaking down film of Sam Houston and South Dakota State and James Madison and teams like that, and in Delaware as well, that they not only watched those games, but they went full in and have scouting reports. And so I think that was kind of an interesting fact that tells us that, yeah, Coach Houck in Montana, they expect to be deep in the playoffs, and they expect to see some of those teams in the playoffs. And so they're already getting ahead of the curve a little bit by breaking those teams down during the spring.
Talking about breaking teams down, Craig, for you, some leagues have had I don't know if it's good or bad, right, to be able to open the season with a conference game. What are your thoughts on just the logistics of that, knowing that normally you see a conference opponent later on in the season?
I kind of like it. I mean, I know it's a time for non-conference, time for these FBS matchups, but when you go down that long list of, games this week, and then you get to that conference game, it just stands out. I mean, it's like another dimension to what's going on. It's like, hey, let's see what you have from the start. And you obviously don't want to lose a conference game early on and have it weigh on your mind as you go back to playing non-conference. So, the CAA does it, the SWAC, at times other conferences have done it. I just think it's fun when you get a few matchups that are conference and just really put people to the test.
I think it's fun. I think with it being fall ball, being back, a lot of people are allowing fans in the stands. I would say, what better way to get the fans excited and to come back than to have one of your conference foes either coming to your place or going on the road. And I think just keeps that energy, like you said, that does relate to playing an FBS opponent, to open, or maybe playing an in-state rival that's not in your conference. So, once again, this has been another great week. Can't wait to see all the games that are going to be going on. Thank you so much, Craig and Sam, for joining us on FCS All-In. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time.
Next up, we'll look ahead to the Patriot League's Week 1 slate.
Patriot League football kicks off today, and that includes 4 matchups against FBS opponents. Fordham is among those 4, and the Rams are the last school in the league to have won against an FBS school. Fordham beat Temple on Michael Niebrick's Hail Mary touchdown pass in 2013. And 2 years later, they edged Army in a shootout at West Point that saw Chase Edmonds total 266 yards rushing and receiving with 3 touchdowns. Hi, I'm Maria Tribal Peace in the Patriot League studio for FCS All-In. The fall season is finally here, and it will be a great day to watch football as all the games will be available on ESPN Plus and national TV. Get your extra screens ready for the early games as we will have 4 schools kicking off at noon. That includes Lehigh, which will host number 15 Villanova on ESPN Plus. Lafayette will travel to Air Force, and Bucknell wraps up the day with a 6 p.m. game at Sacred Heart. Georgetown's opener against Marist was canceled earlier in the week, but when they do kick off the season, Ahmad Wilson will be one of the players to watch on defense. Wilson was selected as the Joe Ekabachi Memorial jersey recipient for this season, and he will don the number 35. That jersey has been awarded each year since 2003 as a living memorial to the spirit and memory of Joe Ekabachi, a 1996 Georgetown football graduate who died in the North Tower on September 11, 2001.
Ahmad's the reason why I coach here. If you just look at his career, and we talk about 4 for 40 in the journey, Magis is a huge theme of ours. We're just looking to get 1% better every day. And if you look at Ahmad's career, from the day one he stepped on campus, he's been a true student athlete. I graduated in 4 years with a 3.8 from our business school. He's a 3-time All-Conference Patriot League player. And as you look at what he's done just overall in our community on campus, he's the reason why I'm at a place like Georgetown. He really embodies the tenets that we try and improve on every day with our players, and really excited to see him and honestly excited that he would come back to our program as a grad student in our business school and spend his 5th year with us. So in the 20th anniversary of the number 35 Joe Ekabachi Memorial jersey, he's the right person for that honor this year.
Let's take a closer look at Lehigh, which opens up with a tough test against number 15 Villanova. The Wildcats were an offensive force in 2019, led by then junior quarterback Daniel Smith. He threw for 3,274 yards and 35 touchdowns. Smith returns as a graduate student this fall and will certainly be a focal point for the Lehigh defense.
We have to shut down the routes and contain him because he's a legitimate dual threat guy. He's a really good football player. You could tell he has a great feel for the game. He makes plays all over the place, and he really makes the offense run. They have a lot of talent across the board, but he's the glue that holds it all together, and he's distributing the ball and making plays by himself. So we're going to have to do a great job up front and in the back end to make sure that we're minimizing any big plays.
Lehigh's offense will look for big plays from its deep running back core, which includes senior co-captain Rashawn Allen and junior Zathan Hill. The two backs combined for 730 yards and 5 scores in 2019, and that included Hill's Patriot League record-setting 94-yard touchdown run. Enjoy the games today, and for all of the great highlights, you can follow us on Twitter at Patriot League TV. We'll see you back here next week.
Big South football kicks off its 20th season this week, and the opening slate features 8 of the 9 members playing 3 FBS opponents, 3 FCS foes, and 2 non-Division I contests. Here's a rundown of the Week 1 schedule. Nationally ranked Kennesaw State started the campaign 2 days ago with its first ever Thursday night home game. The Owls hosted Reinhardt in what was the 4th Thursday night season opener in KSU's 7-year existence. The Owls travel to Georgia Tech next week. Robert Morris takes the field today at noon at Pioneer League member Dayton. It will be the 23rd meeting between the Colonials and Flyers.
Hello, this is Kendra Watkins with the ASUN Conference, and today we're talking college football, Week 1, today. And it's already underway as Jacksonville State took on the University of Alabama Birmingham in the Montgomery kickoff on Wednesday. The midweek game between the Gamecocks and Blazers was their 6th all-time meeting and the first time on a neutral field. No stranger to Montgomery, Jacksonville State opened the season in Alabama's capital for the 3rd time in the last 5 years.
Josh just pointed out a little unusual playing on Wednesday night, I think. So just you're in that game week situation, today, and just progressing. Gotten out of camp, last week. School started, a lot of things going on. Had a good camp. Ready to play somebody else besides hitting on ourselves. So but what a challenge, to open the season up with UAB. We got a tough starter, with UAB and Florida State, and the average I think college football fan would go would underestimate UAB Florida State. I think UAB may be better than Florida State. So you get start off the year with, it's a really not just an average, group of 5 team. I mean, you talk about a team that's won their conference, three times out of the last 4 years.
The rest of the week shapes out with Eastern Kentucky and Central Arkansas hitting the road for Week 1 action. Eastern Kentucky meets Western Carolina in a rematch of last season's Opportunity Bowl that saw the Colonels defeat the Catamounts 49-17. Head coach Walt Wells speaks on the season opening rematch and EKU facing an opponent with an all-new coaching staff.
Western Carolina has changed from the last time we played them in November. They have obviously changed coaching staffs after the spring season, have a brand new staff. I don't know if anybody is left on the staff as a full-time coach. So they have the advantage and disadvantage of not playing a lot together. The disadvantage, the advantage is, there's no film out on them. So you're trying to do everything you can to find film and create an advantage for your team and figure out what schemes they're going to be using all the way from all the different stops that all their different coaches have been. But we know they're a talented football team. We respect what they're doing. I know they're going to try to throw it all over the yard, be a high tempo on offense and be multiple on defense. And they'll be sound in the kicking game.
Central Arkansas and Arkansas State tangle for the 27th time in history this Saturday. The Bears lead in the all-time series 13-11 with 2 ties. Central Arkansas looks to avenge their last season loss to the Red Wolves, led by their trio of preseason All-Americans in Tyler Hudson, Luwan Winningham, and Braylon Smith. Led by their most successful quarterback in program history, head coach Nathan Brown has guided the Bears to a winning record every year since being named to the position. Kickoff between Central Arkansas and Arkansas State is at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN3 as the Bears look to continue their winning ways.
Ralph Ventry here with your Northeast Conference update. First, let's take a look at the NECFB tweet sheet. This tweet comes out of Pittsburgh, where Duquesne alumnus Christian Kuntz has made some news. The former two-time NEC Defensive Player of the Year is the Pittsburgh Steelers' primary long snapper. Kuntz, who bounced around a number of NFL training camps, he also competed in the AAF and the XFL, a collegiate linebacker turned to long snapper at the professional level. He was signed to a futures reserve contract by the Steelers in January, worked his way through the offseason program, impressed in training camp, and unseated a veteran. Christian Kuntz has finally made it to the NFL as a member of the Steelers' 53-man roster. What a story of perseverance. For more on Kuntz and the NEC and the NFL, visit the NEC Overtime blog. That's at NECOvertime.com. From the tweet sheet, we move on to the NEC stock market review. I'm telling you whose value is on the rise. There's been constant chatter about Julius Chestnut, and rightfully so. But there's another senior running back on the circuit who has earned some attention as well. I'm talking about Bryant's feature back, Daniel Adeboboye. Running with power and good acceleration, Adeboboye averaged 5.9 yards per carry during the Bulldogs' spring season. Adeboboye totaled 445 yards on the ground over a 4-game sample en route to a spot on the All-NEC first team. By all accounts, this preseason, the Canadian-born Adeboboye is prepared to carry the load again when the Bulldogs lift the lid off their 2021 schedule by visiting CAA member Rhode Island. The hard-running Adeboboye has rushed for more than 1,000 yards over the last 13 games. He's ready to go. His stock is on the way up. So that's all from the Northeast Conference for this week as the NEC and NFL profile expands and Bryant running back Daniel Adeboboye is set for a super senior campaign. For more on NEC football, follow NEC football on Twitter and visit the website northeastconference.org.
Next up, we have a look back at some preseason honors and what's ahead for the SoCon in Week 1.
It's time to focus in on the action in the Southern Conference, a league that celebrates its 100th anniversary during this football campaign. The Southern Conference had 2 teams appear in preseason polls. Chattanooga and VMI ranked 18th and 19th in the AFCA Coaches Poll and in the Stats FCS poll at 17th and 18th respectively. Chattanooga was the pick to win the league by both the coaches and the media. Sanford in the 2 spot in the coaches poll, followed by VMI, ETSU, Furman, Mercer, the Citadel, Wofford, and Western Carolina. While on the media side, it was VMI tucked right in behind Chattanooga, with ETSU, Furman, and Sanford all a dead heat for third. Mercer, Wofford, the Citadel, and Western Carolina rounding out the expectations in the media poll. VMI's Spring Football Championship was the Keydets' first title since 1977. Scott Wackenheim and company entered the 2021 fall season in search of back-to-back crowns for the first time since 1959 and 1960. Preseason favorite Chattanooga is looking for its first title since 2015 and has the luxury of 72 of 76 lettermen back, including all 25 starters entering the fall campaign. 18 different SoCon players earned preseason All-America honors, including VMI wide receiver Jacob Harris, who was a consensus first-team pick. Harris, along with Liam Welch of Sanford, Devin Wynn of Furman, and Quay Holmes of ETSU found their names on the Walter Payton Award watch list, while the Buck Buchanan list included Willie Eubanks of the Citadel, Chris Edmonds of Sanford, and Stone Snyder of VMI. On Saturday, reigning SoCon champion VMI hosts reigning Pioneer champion Davidson. That game scheduled to kick off at 1:30. Wofford is at Elon. Furman hosts North Carolina A&T. Western Carolina is at home welcoming Eastern Kentucky. And ETSU plays up in the SEC on the road in Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. Those are your headlines from around the Southern Conference as the FCS season gets underway.
South-End Conference football is officially back. All 6 teams kick off their season in Week 1 with the hopes of bringing the FCS National Championship back to the South-End Conference for the 2nd year in a row. 2 teams got underway on Thursday as UIW took on Missouri Valley foe Youngstown State, and Houston Baptist went head-to-head with FBS opponent New Mexico. Our other 4 teams will play today, starting at noon with the McNeese Cowboys. Looking to kick off their 2021 season in dramatic fashion, just like they did against Tarleton State in the spring, the Cowboys will host the defending Division II champion, West Florida. Averaging 400.9 yards and 26.1 points per game, McNeese returns 95% of its offensive output this fall. Ranking 22nd in the stats per form and 23rd in the AFCA coaches preseason polls, Nichols takes to the road to play Memphis for their season opener. With nearly every starter returning from the spring season, the Colonels are hoping to beat an FBS opponent for the first time since the 2018 season, when they beat Kansas 26-23 in Lawrence in overtime. The Southland Conference preseason favorites, Southeastern, was set to open up its 2021 campaign at home, but due to Hurricane Ida, the Lions will travel to Florence, Alabama to play North Alabama. Southeastern enters this season ranked 15th and 17th respectively in the Stats per Form and AFCA coaches preseason polls. Walter Payton Award winner Cole Kelly will once again lead the Lions' high-powered offense, while the 2-time All-American Philando Jordan will lead the defense. And the final game of the night will take place in Denton, Texas, as Northwestern State goes head-to-head with FBS opponent North Texas. Ending their season with a win on a game-winning field goal against then 19th-ranked UIW in the spring, the Demons look to ride that momentum as they start their fall 2021 campaign. Again, here's a look at the schedule for today's games, with all 4 games streamed on either ESPN3 or ESPN+. And some quick Southland Conference news in the NFL. Following this week's 53-man roster cuts, 8 Southland Strong alums have made it on active NFL rosters. This group combined for 11 first-team All-America honors and 2 Southland Defensive Player of the Year awards in their time in the league. With so much buzz and excitement surrounding the start of the season, we here at the Southland can't help but also be excited about the end of the season, as we're proud to play host to the FCS National Championship here in Frisco, Texas for the 12th straight year. Best of luck to all 6 of our teams kicking off their season this weekend.
To say the beginning of Scotty Walden's coaching career at Austin Peay was anything but typical is an understatement. He began last season as an assistant coach at Southern Miss, was named the Golden Eagles interim head coach in September. He joined the APSU program after its 3-game fall season and then assembled a staff, signed a recruiting class, and began to instill a culture all prior to the spring season beginning in February, all during a pandemic.
I know that it was a unbelievably challenging year, logistically, a logistical nightmare, if you will, for football teams to, hey, you're thinking about position meetings. Where do you even meet? How do you meet? But I think it allowed us to grow. I really do, because it challenged us to think outside the box. It challenged us to adapt. And I think that's what life's all about. As the years go on, you have to continue to adapt and evolve, or you're going to get left behind.
What did Walden learn in his first year as a collegiate head coach?
I'll tell you this, with the accelerated timeline, I really took for granted what a good spring ball can do for your team. We walked in November, and we had to go, like, my first day, I remember the first Monday I was here, we started mat drills, 6 a.m., go get it, because we had to catch up. Mat drills, the instilling the culture and just getting after it in the mornings, seeing the product, especially early on for us, false starts, things from miscommunications to missed assignments. Those things really plagued us as it plagued, other teams as well, because we just didn't have that time. You think about a normal season, you go through winter conditioning, you go through spring ball, you go through the summer, then you play. Well, we got the job in November, and we got to get our culture instilled. We go winter conditioning, then we play. And it was, losing those reps just showed me even more how important spring ball really is.
Walden made a positive impression on his players during year one, including his high energy level he brings every day.
He brings it every day, no matter the time, weather, regardless of where it is, he's bringing it. And his energy is something that us as players, we feed off of, because we see how he brings it at practice, meetings, in games, and we see that and we're like, okay, like, that's a guy that I want to play for. And also not only with him, but with the entire coaching staff, about how they build relationships. We go over and eat at either Coach Walden's or our position coach's house sometimes, and we're able to play games, talk, and just hang out. And they're really, this coaching staff is really big on that, about building those relationships on and off the field, and I think that's been great for us.
It was not lost on Walden the level of respect his fellow OVC coaches have for each other.
I love the respect level that the coaches have in this league for each other. I think that's special, and I think that's a unique bond that not a lot of people have. And I really just, me being a newcomer into the conference, I've really appreciated that. And I just think that, because this is a tough business we're all in, a tough career profession we've chosen, and it's the most rewarding profession in the world, and we all know that. But it's tough year in and year out, and I feel that support level from those guys as a cohesive group.
This year, the Governors, who are nationally ranked for the 4th straight season, will be looking to capture the program's second OVC crown in the past 3 years.
With the start of college football on the horizon, the Pioneer Football League caught up with one of the newest head coaches, who is leading Presbyterian into the conference for its first official season of action. Hired just over 3 months ago to lead the Blue Hose, head coach Kevin Kelly sits down with us to talk about the quick transition and what his goals are for this year's team.
You singled out the most difficult factor I think that there has been and will be for us, and that is, they're playing in the spring. I didn't get hired until, late May. And so that all said, I didn't get to work with a team in spring ball any. And the kids here, since our division is non-scholarship, our conference is non-scholarship, we only had a handful of those kids on campus. I'm talking about like 20 kids. So I didn't meet a bunch of kids. I met probably half of them throughout the summer, literally like the first day of camp, and that first week of August is the first time I've actually met some of those guys. So then I had 29 days to put in, an offense, a defense, special teams, get them used to what I want in practice, off the field, all those kinds of things, get them used to meetings and how I want to conduct those. So, it's been difficult at times, but, it's been enjoyable. I think most coaches like a challenge of some kind. That definitely was a huge challenge. And, I really wondered, because we're throwing a lot at them, being a football player with a new coach, if he brings in a whole new system, it's like learning a new language. It's like being dropped off in another country and having to learn something different, how to say things different. Just the words are all different. So I've been pretty pleased with where we are right now, to be honest with you. I know where I thought we would be, and we're a little bit past that, but we've certainly got a long ways to go. But that was the biggest obstacle, is just not getting those guys in the summer and having to throw it all in at once. Everybody kind of laughs at me because we're picked to finish middle of the conference and things like, and they haven't ever won the conference. It's moving up to Division I, but our goal is to win the conference and make the playoffs and have a run in the playoffs. And I think you've got to aim high to get high, because I've always said this when I go speak out in the corporate world, or when I'm even talking in the football world. I think humans are programmed that whatever you expect, we get just a little less. So we're going to aim really, really high. And if we get a little less than that, then it's going to be still what we wanted. And so I think that's what they need to do, is set their goals higher. And because I think if your goal is to win 5 or 6 games, you might win 5 or 6 games. If your goal is to have a winning season, you might have a winning season. So I want our goal to be something really high that they haven't done before. And is that a long shot? Maybe, but I think you've got to change the mindset and the culture of people if you want to attain goals that they've never attained before, because that's just the only way you're going to get there. So that's my goal. And at the same time, I want the town and the county and the area around here to start embracing football and be led by that spirit and come to games and tailgate and do all that, because I say this all the time too. With the world we've got and COVID and political division and all the kinds of craziness, football is the one place on Saturday that religion, color, race, everything, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, none of that matters on Saturday when you're sitting in the stands pulling for your college football team. It's one thing that the passion of the game brings everybody together for a common cause. And that's what I would like to see out of this county and this town and this area. And not that they're heavily divided or anything, but I do know this: nothing brings people together like college football and NFL football. So I'm in a position to help with that, and I hope that we're able to do that around here.
Let's take a look at some Week 0 highlights in an interview with Alcorn State head coach.
SWAC football has started in the same city it's going to end, and that's in Atlanta, with the MEAC SWAC Challenge this weekend. Alcorn State faced off against North Carolina Central. Opening drive for Alcorn, 10 plays, 65 yards. Felix Harper, he's going to pair up with Juan Anthony to get their longest pitch and catch of the game for 20 yards. Next play, Anthony again, nice footwork, missed tackle. He's going to run that in to put the Braves on the board early in the first. Juan Anthony with 5 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown in this game. North Carolina Central's Davius Richard evened the score right before the half with his 6-yard run into the end zone. Fast forward third quarter, 6 plays, 28 yards. It's Nico Duffy with a 4-yard pass from Harper to put Alcorn up 14-13. This will be the Braves' last touchdown before falling 23-14.
I'll tell you what, it was kind of a great experience for us as a coaching staff, and some of the guys that's been here before and been under their hand for 4 years, 5. Just excited about getting back on the gridiron. One of the things in the course of spring 21, get a chance to see the guys work and compete against each other, leading up to July, summer, up to camp. We're excited about where we was at as a football team, as a football staff.
Being off for that long, you guys had to find your rhythm again, but what were some of the key takeaways?
The biggest thing is, the way the young men played, they played hard, which we expect them to do. They always gonna come out and play hard. I think some of the issue that we had was small. There's things that we can fix. There's nothing major. From a quarterback standpoint, Felix played good at times. Just getting him in a rhythm, doing some of the things that he's capable of doing. Just holding the ball too long. One of the things that we looked at as a staff this morning, him just holding the ball too long. But other than that, the offensive line played well. They ran the ball well. almost 200-yard rushing. So the receivers caught the ball well, but it's a small thing, just hurting ourselves in the red zone. I think that was one of the biggest things that comes out of this game that we need to try and fix.
Talk about some of the efforts of Stafford Anderson, who's averaging a first down each possession. Talk about his efforts and what you see for him and the team going forward.
A lot of promising things for that young man. And he's been solid throughout the whole process. When he came in, during the course of the spring, he had a good spring. Camp, he had a good camp. And in this game, he had a great game. Ran the ball well. And that's something that we have got to take advantage of with him and Nico Duffy in the backfield. What they can do well, and I think both of them can run the ball well and also catch the ball well out of the backfield.
Dream speech. He was admitted to Morehouse at the age of 15. He played a little football at Morehouse back in the day.
I got a chance to talk to their team last night over at the Hall of Fame.
At Morehouse?
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, that's the Celebration Bowl trophy. It goes to the winner of the December showdown between the MEAC and SWAC champions here in Atlanta. Two teams tonight hoping for a rematch as Jen Latta joins us this morning. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, what an honor to be joined by such a decorated and well-respected guest in Dr. Dennis Thomas. He is the longtime commissioner of the MEAC. Look around, Dr. Thomas. What is the significance of a day like today?
Well, it is absolutely tremendous. It brings additional branding, marketing to our student athletes, to our coaches, to our institution. And I have to thank ESPN for really doing a magnificent job with this. Jimmy Patero, Burt Magnus, Pete Durzik, and John Grant, who is executive director of the Celebration Bowl and the MEAC SWAC. So they do a phenomenal job, and I wanted to thank them very much.
You've been instrumental in the Celebration Bowl, which is, of course, a celebration of these programs. But you played at Alcorn State. You represent the MEAC. Dare I ask you for a pick in today's game?
It's a no-brainer. First and foremost, at this point in time, Alcorn doesn't sign my check. But I send checks to Alcorn. So but it's no question, Dr. Chancellor accolade, North Carolina Central University all the way. Well, the Eagles. Let's go, Eagles.
Well, your list of accolades is much longer than the time that we have to sit here and chat today, but I do know that you are on the 2021 ballot for induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Jenny.
Quarterback Davius Richard rushed for 2 touchdowns, and preseason first-team All-MEAC return man Brandon Codrington returned a fourth-quarter punt 77 yards for a touchdown on Saturday as North Carolina Central defeated Alcorn State 23-14 in the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge kickoff in Atlanta, Georgia. The season-opening win for the Eagles, who had not played since 2019, gave the MEAC an 11-4 all-time record over the SWAC in the annual event. The 2021 MEAC football season begins in earnest this weekend, with 5 of the conference's 6 programs in action. Howard will be at Richmond live on Flow Football. 2 schools will open their seasons at home. Delaware State will play host to Bowie State, while Morgan State will welcome crosstown foe Towson to Hughes Stadium. Both games will be broadcast live on the MEAC Digital Network on ESPN+. Elsewhere this weekend, Norfolk State will be at Toledo live on ESPN3, and South Carolina State will hit the road to square off against defending SWAC champion Alabama A&M. For more information on MEAC football and its 15 other sponsored sports, visit us at MEACsports.com. You can also follow the MEAC on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MEAC Sports, and on YouTube on the MEAC Digital Network.
Thanks for going all in with us. You can catch every episode of FCS All-In right back here every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell icon to stay up to date on all the latest FCS All-In content. Until next week, let's be sure to keep the conversation going on social media by using the hashtag FCS All-In.